El recinto universitario de Mayagüez presenta Foro Colegial TV, la revista informativa del acontecer del antes, ahora y siempre colegio, con un siglo de historia aportando a la educación del país.
Saludos y bienvenidos a Foro Colegial, la revista informativa del recinto universitario de Mayagüez. Soy Mariam Ludimbrosa, directora de la oficina de prensa del colegio, y es un placer nuevamente compartir con los amigos y amigas que nos sintonizan en este espacio educativo del acontecer del antes, ahora y siempre colegio. 100 años forjando profesionales de excelencia. Esta vida boricua es un espacio virtual que documenta a través de la narrativa e historia oral y otros métodos multimedias diferentes historias. Sobre eso hablaremos hoy en Foro Colegial.
A continuación, la entrevista de hoy de Foro Colegial.
Saludamos nuevamente a los amigos y amigas en sintonía con Foro Colegial, y para hablarnos sobre este proyecto, esta vida boricua, se encuentra con nosotros la profesora Sonja Mongar. Ella es del departamento de inglés. Ella nos entiende nuestro español, pero va a estar hablando en inglés, así que le damos la bienvenida a Foro Colegial. ¿Cómo se encuentra, profesora?
Buenos días. Buenas tardes.
Bienvenida nuevamente a este espacio, ya que ha estado anteriormente con nosotros. ¿Cómo se encuentra? How are you?
I'm good.
Bien.
That went fast.
¿De qué se trata este proyecto? What's this project about?
Okay, Esta Vida Boricua is a life narrative installation. Life narrative encompasses a lot of different genres, including multimodal memoir, which is memoir done with multimedia. Also autotopographies with photography, old photographs, the ancestral photographs. There's a public performance space with music, art, poetry, a variety of different independent art, and it's basically a 10-year project that I gathered these stories over a period of 10 years with my students and with other writers, not just students at the colegio. And I wanted to do something with them, and I couldn't find the money to make a print publication, so I finally decided to try digital. Mm-hmm. And that's how it ended up like this, and it grew. It started with just about 250 stories and grew to be encompass all the range of storytelling. Mm-hmm. in communities. So it was unexpected. The success was unexpected, actually. So it came out very nice.
¿Cómo se han recolectado estas historias? How you've gathered all these stories?
Well, it started in my classrooms with activities, and I first noticed that the stories of Puerto Rico were really rich and diverse. And many of them untold. These are untold stories. And I thought people should be reading these. People don't know about Puerto Rico. People don't know what the communities are like. They don't know what it's like to live here and grow up here and to go through all of the difficulties sometimes that we have to encounter. So that's why it's called This Puerto Rican Life, or Esta Vida Boricua, because it's not just about being Puerto Rican, it's about living a Puerto Rican life, which encompasses people who have migrated here, people who have immigrated from here, people who have traveled around the world and come back, biculturalism, people that came from Cuba during the Castro era, people that came from the Dominican Republic, people that came from South America during different political upheavals. It captures a lot of a world diaspora that ended up in Puerto Rico. And it's a really fascinating story. I don't think people know it. And the people most interested in it seem to be people from outside the island. They really want to know, what is Puerto Rico like? What goes on here? What is the past like? And there's a lot of similarities. For instance, there's a story about a grandmother who gathers water with a rain barrel. And my grandmother did the same thing in Montana when I was a kid. So there's a lot of things that connect us too. as stories. So it's very powerful.
So how you get the stories from the students? ¿Cómo recibe estas historias de los estudiantes? ¿Qué ellos tienen que hacer? What they have to do?
Well, I give them an activity. It's called autotopography, and autotopography is writing based on photographs. So I ask them, go to your grandparents, go to your parents, find the oldest photographs that you can find, and ask your parents about them, ask your grandparents about them. Tell them, ask them to tell you stories, and amazing stories have come out of it. In fact, secrets have come up that grandparents have told things that they have never told anyone. And there's one story there, for instance, where a grandmother told her grandson that his grandfather had burned down the neighbor's house, and everybody thought it was candles. And the grandmother says in the story, she says, now don't tell anybody this. And I got the manuscript and I said, look, Angel, your grandmother says don't tell anybody this story, but you want me to publish this. And he says the story has to be told. That I needed to know that story. There was a story about his grandfather was schizophrenic, and there was a lot of secrets in the family, and they just really needed, he needed to know about it. He needed to know about it. He thought it was a very important story, so he said, publish it anyway. I hope his grandmother isn't mad at me. So.
¿Cómo los estudiantes reaccionan cuando usted les da esta tarea de buscar la historia? How the students react through this assignment?
They are surprised. They are surprised. They get so excited when I've let them know that they're published. Their families read the stories. Their friends read the stories. They leave comments, and they feel proud of the struggles that their families had to go through. There's students that have written, they're the first generation to go to college, so their stories are very, agricultural kind of stories, farming and that kinds of thing. And there's students that are second and third generation graduates of the Colegio. I mean, there's such a range of stories, and they're all important. One of the things I learned in my many travels is that everybody has a story to tell, and they need a place to tell it and somebody to listen. So that's basically what it's for.
Profesora, en este proceso de escritura, ¿cómo entonces usted les ayuda en el proceso? Porque me imagino que hay una edición para llegarlo a publicar a esta vida boricua. How you help your students through the editing process of their own writing process so it can get to a site so everybody can read it?
Well, it's English. Every student is writing in their second language. Every writer is writing in their second language. There is some Spanish there, but it's all English. So they're having to conceptualize their stories in, the colonial language, and which makes a whole other impact. The stories, the Puerto Rico's narrative is changing rapidly. The impact of American corporations on the island, the impact of globalization, all these things are rapidly changing, and students want to connect with the outside world. So they don't find writing in English, intimidating, because I take them through the process step by step of being able to tell their story. I mean, there's craft elements involved with creative writing, and we have to go through the whole class with that. So I have to do a lot of editing also, quite a bit of editing. And I try to preserve the voice as much as possible and not get too crazy about grammatical problems and things like that. So you'll see, when you read the stories, you'll see some are a little bumpy and rough.
Your own voice, su propia voz.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. But that's the way they came from them. That's their story. So it's as best as it's going to be as far as that goes. And the story has to come through. So we use whatever modes possible. Last semester we tried multimodal memoirs, which meant that the students had to go get images, photographs and video footage, and create something that represented them as people in one.
From the past or from the present?
From the present, yeah. They're going. Some of them did things on their grandparents. Like one girl did a whole video or video narrative of Hurricane George, which completely ruined her house. And she has pictures of the house, and she told the story of being 6 years old, and they couldn't get out of their house, and the only place that they could stay was in the bathroom, which was concrete, while the rest of the house blew away. So that's a very powerful story, and people don't know what it's like to go through a hurricane and survive that. So some chose those kinds of stories, some chose, there's one young woman who's a color guard for the band, and she went, she talked about her initiation, about what that was like being part of this great group of people which represent the university, and the games, what are the games called? The
justas?
The justas, the justas, yeah, the day that she went to justas for the first time, and she got some fantastic photographs. So that was what hers was about. Another was a boy who came here from California, Puerto Rican, not born here, who took one semester, an exchange student, and his new friends took him to this very remote place, a river, and he couldn't swim. So he has all this video footage and his story about how he learned about the island where his ancestors came from. So, there's a lot of variety in the stories. It's not just history, the past. So.
And y usted publica todas las historias que hacen los estudiantes. You publish every story that the students
I have published, well, I have about 150 more to edit.
Mm-hmm.
I've published about 75 autotopographies, and then there's about 30 or 40 multimodals and things like that. But right now I'm the only editor, and it's very time consuming, as you might imagine. And I've been looking for support for the website, can't find it, having a hard time with that. I had 9 interns last semester who took an internship class, but they weren't ready to edit yet, so we had to, I had to do most of it myself. So there's quite a few stories still not up yet, but planning on adding them soon. And my students write more every semester, they add to that, so it grows. Yeah.
And what I see, what you told me, por lo que veo y lo que me dice la profesora, es un lugar electrónico bien rico que se va nutriendo constantemente. So this is a very rich site that it always gets new stories from your students, and other people also can participate.
Faculty contribute stories. Community people, writers in the community contribute stories. People from the United States are contributing various things. They have to sort of fit, it has to be, you have to either be Puerto Rican, be born Puerto Rican, or you have to have married a Puerto Rican, or, lived on the island. You have to have had some kind of experience with the whole culture and in order to participate. It's kind of limited that way, but it's not limited to just the island. And I have a lot of help putting up video and audio materials, so if somebody is submitting art things, I can put those up for them, but it just depends on the volunteers and the time, so it's kind of going slowly right now.
So, when you go to the page, what do you see? Cuando uno va directamente al portal electrónico, ¿qué uno ve?
I set it up like a stage. There's stage right, center stage, and stage left. There's a backstage. There's a slideshow of photographs. One of the professors in our department is a photographer, and I wanted untypical images of Puerto Rico, images that people never see of Puerto Rico, because we've seen all the typical ones, like what are the untypical ones? So there's a slideshow that goes in the background of these wonderful images that have been captured by this photographer. So there's 3 stages, and one stage is the multimodal and the audio and video. The center stage is the autotopographies. It has 14 chapters. And then the right stage, it's stage left because you're standing on stage. And so it's stage right, stage left, center stage. And the other stage, the stage left, is the art gallery. And there's 9 galleries there. There's a theater gallery, a poetry gallery, an art gallery. It's huge. It's huge. It's got great potential. We have people like Pedro Santeliz. We have a video from him, and there's going to be more things added. He was the founder of Teatro Pobres. Not a lot of famous people, but a few people that are well known. So I took the site to the Puerto Rican archives at Hunter College this summer to show them, and they were very impressed with that. And that's what they asked me. Are there any more famous people? The point isn't about famous people, it's the untold stories. it's the untold stories.
Nos tenemos que ir a una pausa, pero cuando regresemos vamos a seguir hablando sobre este espacio virtual, esta vida boricua. Realmente lo consigue en esa misma dirección, estavidaboricua.com. Muchas historias, narrativas de cosas que han pasado en Puerto Rico, historias que no han sido contadas. Vamos a continuar hablando sobre este interesante tema luego que regresemos de esta pausa. No se retiren, por favor. Y de regreso a Foro Colegial, hoy estamos compartiendo con la profesora Sonja Mongar. Ella es del Departamento de Inglés del Recinto Universitario de Mayagüez. Ella ha comenzado junto con sus estudiantes y otros colaboradores de la comunidad con este proyecto llamado Esta Vida Boricua. El propósito es documentar diferentes narrativas de historia oral, ya sea en fotografía o en multimedios, de diferentes estampas de la vida boricua. Y precisamente encuentra estas historias en el portal estavidaboricua.com, donde, según nos ha indicado la profesora, ya hay unas 75 historias documentadas y muchas más por entrar. Así que vamos a seguir hablando sobre este interesantísimo tema. Profesora, who has been visiting the website? ¿Quién ha estado visitando el website?
Well, it's just been unheard of, the amount of attention we've gotten. Since May 26, which is the day we published, we've received over 6,000 page visit and over 2,500 visitors. The visitors, amazingly, are from all over the world. Every state except Idaho, every province except Saskatchewan. I don't know why, maybe, I don't know why that would be, but that's the case. Almost every South American and Central American country, every continent. We just got Moscow, Russia last week. Chile, Tasmania, the Canary Islands. I mean, we can't even imagine how this got around. I don't know, but word of mouth is such a powerful thing in Puerto Rico. I'm guessing that a lot of students passed this on to their friends and family, and it just spread like wildfire. Plus, there's a lot of interest in the narrative, life narrative. It's a very it's a non-canonic storytelling form. And it's sort of a cutting edge of how people are looking at stories these days. So, and it's digital on top of it. So I can't even, Prague, Iceland, Scandinavia, it just goes on and on. So it's just fantastic.
How do you feel about it?
I just to make myself feel better, I open the page and look at the visitors map. Like, if I feel like a failure in my life, don't, because look.
This is a very good project, Professor. And how the students, the feedback of the students, ¿cuál es la retroalimentación de los estudiantes when they finally see their stories in the website or their published author?
Yeah, exactly. That's one of the things that is not common through the university, is places for students to publish. This has always been an issue ever since I got here 10 years ago. And I've tried to change that, and so they have opportunities to publish. It's very exciting for them, and their families just go crazy. Even if they tell grandma's secrets, they get really excited about it, and they tell everybody. And I've seen some real comments. I've seen families healing because some of the stories are often traumatic, and I see comments there from time to time, like, thank you so much, I needed to know this story about, Uncle so-and-so, et cetera, et cetera. There's some veteran stories, Puerto Ricans who were drafted in the Korean War and in the Vietnam War. There's so many powerful stories about their experience. The Korean War one was very interesting because there was a huge battle there called Pork Chop Hill or something, and they named it after the regiment, the Borinqueniers, who participated in that and were very successful and took the hill, even though their commanding officers couldn't speak Spanish. It was a very interesting story, but reminds us of the things that have happened that are important, that shouldn't be forgotten in the past.
Y aparte de la documentación de la historia, los estudiantes están escribiendo, y eso es un gran logro, besides the documentary of the histories and the story, the students are writing,
yes,
which is very good.
Right, exactly. Writing in English, as a matter of fact, that's very good. They have, most of them have very negative experiences of English. That's just extremely common. And when they come into my classes, I want them to have a positive, if I can do nothing else, I can give you a positive experience of English. And one of the ways that they really, really get excited about trying to communicate in a second language, which is, it just blows my mind to think about, is writing their stories. They love writing about their stories and their lives and their community, and they're finding out things about their grandparents that they never knew. And it's a very powerful and healing. Storytelling is an amazingly healing element of society that we're kind of losing. So it's a way to bring it back in a way. So.
Profesora, ¿qué más quiere lograr con esta página? What else do you want to achieve with this page? First, it was a success to launch it.
Yeah.
Now, what are the next steps?
It needs a home. It needs funding. Right now, I'm paying for everything myself. I had to buy the domain and the web name. Now, the department, after I did that, the department loaned me 2 computers and then set up an internship. So it's just been little tiny things that have helped it come along that would, and I'm not saying at all that I'm the one that did it all. That's not how it happened. But it is being driven primarily by me. And what I would like it to do is to have it institutionalized and adopted by an institution so it goes on forever. So in 50 years after I'm dead, we can open Esta Vida Boricua and see the stories. They're not going to go anywhere. They're going to be there forever. And in a museum, some kind of archive, I don't know. If the university here doesn't adopt it in that way, then I'm going to look at some other options too, because people are very interested in the project in other places as well. But there's just not a lot of money here right now, as we know.
Aparte de los estudiantes, ¿quién más participa? Besides the students, who else participates in this page?
Right now I have some volunteer faculty, some retired faculty that are working on small parts. I have published writers and authors from different places who are contributing. I don't know if you know who Flaco Navaja is, but he's a deaf poet in New York City, and he came to Puerto Rico and he performed in Chardon Theater when it was still running. And I asked him the other day, I said, hey, would you contribute some poetry to our page? And he says, I would love to participate in your project. So getting people outside the community who have some pull in the world will help, promote the whole page, and it's a good thing. And right now I just have volunteers. I have 5 volunteer students. I was given an office in Celis temporarily for the publication. So right now that's kind of where it stands.
Profesor, se me ocurre, y siempre lo decimos aquí, que en este programa nos miran muchos maestros de escuela que quizás estén interesados en replicar un proyecto similar a este o en participar en este proyecto. ¿Cómo se podrían integrar? Maybe there's teachers of schools that are looking at us and very interested in this project, how they can participate.
Well, if you go to the page and, estavidaboricua@gmail.com. That's just email me and ask me. I would do whatever I can to pass on, if more people can do it. If you want to do activities with your class, I can give you assignments to use. There's not enough of me to go around. I could say, well, I could train you and all that other stuff, but there's just not enough. I need more people involved.
Maybe they will come.
Exactly, we need them. Yeah, so I would love to do a workshop with teachers if they wanted to do it. And building a website is very complicated though, so that's something that I probably couldn't help them with, but I could help them get started with something of their own if they wanted. This is, the National Endowment of the Humanities has projects like this all over the United States. In Montana, my home state, all the grade schools and all the teachers are involved in their community history through the National Endowment of the Humanities grants. So, it's a great idea. If somebody wanted to get started with that, it'd be a great idea.
And maybe they want to collaborate with you.
Exactly.
So you can write estavidaboricua@gmail.com if you want to help.
Exactly.
And maybe they want to write a story.
Yeah, we'll accept stories if they're in the same sort of genres that we're working in. If they are an artist, a writer, or a poet, they can have a gallery page. We don't review anything and we don't edit anything that we put in the gallery. That's public space and everyone is welcome to have a page of their own. So if you feel your work is ready to publish in Spanish or English, you just contact us and we will tell you the requirements, and then I'll have to have one of my students put it up for you. But it's a public, literally a public art space. We're just offering that to the community. So if you feel like you're ready, then it's there. You can, if you're a musician and you want to put your music up, it's there.
Le deseamos mucho éxito, profesora, en este proyecto y sé que sí, va a seguir los pasos correctos para que esté aquí por 50 años más, como así usted lo espera. Muchas gracias por estar con nosotros. Gracias. Y amigos, gracias por su sintonía. Recuerde, está vidaboricua.com y allí puede ver el trabajo de la profesora, sus estudiantes y de las personas de la comunidad que también se ha unido. Historias como esta, usted las puede acceder en nuestro portal www.uprm.edu. También nos consigue en Facebook, Recinto Universitario de Mayagüez, y en Twitter a través de Prensa Room. Será hasta una próxima ocasión.
Hasta aquí, Foro Colegial TV. El espacio del acontecer del Recinto Universitario de Mayagüez, producido por su oficina de prensa. Para comentarios o información adicional, puede escribirnos a prensa@uprm.edu. Gracias por su sintonía.